Hi. As a Jehovah's Witness, I grew up in a witness family. I wanted to live a life of service to God. And I hung out with core Jehovah's Witnesses, serious Jehovah's Witness families, active witnesses, pioneers, elders, etc. My view of service centered mostly on being active in field service, Jehovah's Witnesses door-to-door work, and in meeting attendance. Now, I have lived as a non-Jehovah's Witness for more years than I did as a Jehovah's Witness. I still want to live a life of service to God, but I would say my perspective of what that means has broadened and expanded. Over the years, I have met many Christians who desire to serve God, and they do. They find many different ways to do that. I have known good examples of people who are living beautiful, unselfish lives, who view everything they have materially as God's, to be used to His service and blessing and glory, who view their children as a given trust from God to be raised as godly children and to become godly adults, and who care for their family, their extended family, and even beyond that. All of this being service to God. They work honestly and faithfully in their jobs. Some might be ministers to the elderly. They find a ministry doing that, or to disadvantaged or to the ill. Some serve as teachers, and some become ministers, some become missionaries. But all of these things, all our life, in whatever circumstances, can and should be service to God. The whole of life should be sacred service. In Alexander Maclaren's sermon on the aspects of service in the Old Testament, I wanted to read his concluding thoughts. So he ties it in to what we do as service. This is what Alexander Maclaren says. So he's tying it to the Old Testament. He goes, every Sabbath the loaves were renewed and the old ones taken away, to be eaten by the priest who had, as representatives of the people, offered them. Our life's activities, offered to God, will nourish ourselves. Every noble desire and act, every self-surrendering and self-oblivious deed, every piece of service which has, for His dear sake, written on it, will come back in benediction and satisfy and strengthen its doer. Jesus said, my meat is to do the will of Him that sent me. That is our true meat too, and if we eat of it, in the days of famine we shall be satisfied. All other kinds of activity, sweet as they may be to the taste, starve a man and fill his mouth with gravel. But if we yield ourselves and our works to God, He will give us them back, and in a blessed sense we shall be filled with the fruit of our doings. Let us see to it that we so live as to gain strength from our labor, and to find that our nourishment and refreshment is like our Lord's, to do the Father's will, and to finish His work. I liked those sentiments of Alexander Maclaren. When David and I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, we opened a bookshop just out of our house. We were living in a tiny little house, so we used the living room and the dining room as a place to display the books we wanted to sell. Mostly they were apologetic books that had meant so much to David on leaving the Witnesses. And through our bookshop, we ended up meeting various Christians. They were kind and loving and patient and self-sacrificing folks. Many were using their time to minister to others. We met at that time in our house a group of Christians who regularly gave up evenings to host a support group, one for Jehovah's Witnesses and one for Mormons. We started to attend the one for Jehovah's Witnesses. So David and I actually fell into ministry almost upon leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. They helped us and we helped them. We helped them to understand Jehovah's Witnesses and their teachings. And so we ended up blessing each other. We wanted to help them to better communicate with Jehovah's Witnesses because we didn't have a voice anymore in the lives of Jehovah's Witnesses. So we thought we could speak through Christians. Our service to God, though, changed from different seasons in our life, and new opportunities of service always arose no matter what the circumstances in our life. So at about 13 years after we left the Witnesses, we became parents for the first time, and our service shifted to the raising of our son to be a godly person. And we helped in other ways. We helped in our local church that we were attending. We helped build libraries. I taught Sunday school. David sometimes was allowed to give sermons at the church when the minister was away. We served in a number of ways in the community as well. So now we have returned to working with Jehovah's Witnesses or for Jehovah's Witnesses, and particularly for those that have been disillusioned and left the Witnesses or who are PMOs right now and are confused and depressed sometimes. And all of this service, we find it does feed us. It's got a nourishment of its own. It has rewards of its own. And it has fed our souls. So we thank you because you help us as much as we try and help you. I'm going to link to 2 videos done through the readings of Ray Franz's book. And he has a chapter that deals with the Witnesses' focus on field service as the means of doing service for God. So they are entitled Field Service is the Only Work That Counts. That was one of them. And the other one is Law Nullifies Love. JW's flock neglected for field service. So the field service always comes before even taking care of your own in the Watchtower. Thank you for listening.